Okay, so what can somebody say about Dave Blass that he hasn't already said about himself many, many times? If you even just met him once, you've heard his stories at least twice. And if you didn't, you missed out, because he was a great storyteller who could make a story about going to the grocery store like an epic Hollywood film. And I know if Dad were here today, and I believe he is here today, because this place is so perfect for him. I mean, so wonderful. Even if there's a film crew working on a commercial out in the parking lot, this is Dave's place. And he is with us today. But he would say, don't forget to tell him about the transplant. I would say, Dad, you didn't read the program because Tammy's going to talk about the health journey, and I'm going to talk about the artistic journey. And he'd say, well, you know, the transplant is always a good story, no matter what the topic is. Dad kind of lived like a TV show. And, you know, this feels so perfectly appropriate for the kind of way he would like to be remembered. You know, lights, this beautiful big screen, the pictures of him on the wall. I mean, I literally could never have envisioned a place that he would like as much as this. And also, it's Christmas time, and that was his favorite holiday. And the one thing he said every single Christmas, this is the best Christmas ever. And we would say, oh, Dad, how can it always be the best Christmas? But for him, it was. And he really believed these things. He really felt these things. And so he loved television. He used to say, we're a TV family. And because he loved that idealism, you know, and the lessons, because he was always about imparting the important lessons of life. So for him, television summed these things up very well. Treat people with respect, tell the truth, help your neighbor. Your family, whether chosen or blood, is the most important thing. So, and I think the other thing that really he loved about television is the characters would always have a catchphrase, or they would repeat their story so often that it was predictable, but he had like the wisdom of Father Knows Best, combined with the zaniness of like, I Love Lucy, always wanting to be in showbiz. So I think people may have thought that he was a guy who just loved attention and applause, and he was. But it was not for the reason we thought. It was not for the reason I thought, because I always thought I knew him, but I discovered in this process that I didn't know him at all, because he was playing a character. This was his TV show, and he wanted you to laugh. And if you laughed at him or you made fun of him, he was okay with that too, because it was part of him making you feel better, and then it released the stress and the worries of life. And he actually started on a television show in Toledo, Ohio, in the 1950s, where they had a puppet show. And the thing that they loved about that is that it gave him access to cameras and black and white 16 millimeter film. And so they made their own home movies of the various movies they wanted to make. They also wrote a musical. He wrote a song called Teenage Dream. And it's funny because it sounds so much like Grease to me, except it was actually written in the time. And he's talking about a car with spinner hub caps and twin spotlights and a Barney knob, and it's like he saw that. I mean, he lived it, but he could also see that it was part of a dream and part of a television show in his mind. And he was also in high school plays because he had a drama teacher that he loved. He was in Night of January 16th, which was a special play because you chose the jury out of the audience, and then at the end, the jury decided what the verdict was, and then they had to act out different scenes based on what the jury said. So for him, it was like he loved drama and he loved democracy. So that encountered both things. So anyway, In '57, he made his first trip to Hollywood to be the next James Dean or Elvis. And as you can see over there, he was pretty handsome, and he probably had a shot as much as anybody did. But he knew he wasn't ready, and so he came back to the Midwest and met Mom. Well, actually knew Mom, but he decided to get married to Mom and have us 3 kids, and I'm really glad he did that. But once we were grown and moving on with our lives, he felt that it was finally time for him to give a serious try to the business, and of course, there was the transplant. But in the meantime, while we were growing up, he encouraged us to act in plays. Tracy won a singing contest. Tammy and Tracy were on the drill team and did synchronized swimming. And we all got tape recorders so we could make radio dramas. Of course, they mostly ended up in my possession after Christmas because you gotta have background music and soundtrack if you're gonna make TV. So, and Dad also loved to sing, so we sang in the car, and if Mom sang, she sang the most beautiful harmonies. But when she wasn't there, that job fell to me, and I wasn't usually quite up to the task, but I did try, and sometimes I would say, Dad, can we just listen to the radio like regular people? He's like, no, because singing makes you feel good, brings oxygen to your head, you come alive, and honestly, it was like that. But it was also like a TV variety show, because we had medleys and encounters, which are 2 songs that go together of the same, the same key, but different tempos. And and of course, also like TV, we had to introduce ourselves every time. Ladies and gentlemen, the singing sensation of the nation, The Relation. I think that was a takeoff on The Association and The Partridge Family. And his whole thing was, singing makes you happy, and it works. So after the company closed down in 1975, he faced the choice to either move to Cleveland, Ohio, or quit. And in true Dave fashion, he decided to take the chance and come to California. And so that brings us up to, when we got here, we went on the Gong Show in the first year. And yeah, we got gonged. But Dad didn't care. He said it built resilience. And that if you were, you got to be on TV. For real. He was very happy about that. And I got booed and had eggs thrown at me, believe it or not, at a senior talent show. I was obviously a well-liked individual in my high school. But as usual, Dad was in the audience, and after he said, "That was great," he said, "I'm so proud that you kept going even though they hated you." And that was Dad. He was always supportive and always lifting you up even when the rest of the world wouldn't. So again, after we got married and had kids and whatever, he wanted to get into the business, but he didn't really know how. So one morning he awoken to the sound of gunfire outside his apartment door. And when he opened the door, there were cameras, lights, and action. And so the assistant director came over and apologized for having woken him up. And he said, no, that's fine. How do I get to be an extra? So he gave him a card, and that began 2 years of working as a SAG-AFTRA actor, finally living his dream. And I would just say that's so peak Dave, because only Dad could have turned gunfire outside of the house into a career opportunity. So Dad went on to appear in movies like Air America, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Ed Wood, and on TV shows, which you loved, China Beach, 227, and on Empty Nest, where Christy McNichol insisted that he be cast every week because she called him her other father. And so here's the thing, he never saw hierarchy, he never saw stars and extras. He just was one time telling a fellow actor about his heart transplant, as usual, and later he was told that that person was Robert De Niro. So try and imagine a man charming enough to have Robert De Niro listening to your story as though it were Shakespeare. So, of course, he was funny, sometimes corny. You know, he had jokes like Joe Banana and the Bunch singing songs with appeal. He wrote for Karaoke Scene magazine and about a thing about Mondengrams, which are sounded like misheard lyrics. And, you know, for a while he would actually ask people, and then at some point he just started making them up. Because, you know, he felt like he had artistic license. And he purposely changed the lyrics, sometimes in karaoke songs, like in Rhinestone Cowboy, he would repeat, "I need more offers coming over the phone." Like an agent would be sitting in the karaoke bar and say, "Get Dave Blass on the phone." And that's why he loved the Polo Lounge, where he would took Tammy and asked her to go out and use the payphone and call him, so they'd have to bring a phone over to the table. So Dad actually invented the emergency fake call before Tinder. And he was also kind. When he was on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, he had one line, he played a referee, and the other guy playing a referee didn't have any lines. Dad had a SAG card, and in those days you had to have a line in a movie to get a SAG card. So he gave the man his line so that he could also be in the union. He was never worried that what was going to happen. He always had faith that the next thing would be around the corner. And one night we were at Fight Club in the theater, and we noticed a big close-up of Dad. He hadn't actually been in that movie, but he was in an outtake from a spray-on hair infomercial. And they didn't use his reaction in the ad because it was too positive. They didn't think it was believable. Just imagine, you know, being too approving to be used in an infomercial. But Dad would say, you know, if you can't keep your hair, at least you can keep your sense of humor. So people used to say we were alike because I shared his dream of acting and singing. But you know, everybody loved him, and everybody wanted to hear his stories. And my bosses always used to say, "Oh, we love Dave," especially the females. They'd be like, "He's just so handsome, and he's so funny, and he's so thoughtful." And he's like, yeah, whatever. But the thing was, I knew all that, but I guess I took him for granted. I didn't know that I did, because he told me he loved me all the time. I never know what these guys are saying. Oh, my dad never told me he loved me. My dad told me all the time. And, I had never had a question. He was indulgent. He was supportive. But at some point, I guess, putting this together, I got to see him, and all of a sudden, I got to see through it, through the character. The character was not the guy who wanted the applause and wanted the fame. He was the guy who wanted you to be comfortable enough that you could laugh at him, and you could say, "Oh, Dave." And people did. People said, "Oh, Dave." But that was who he was, and he was proud of it. And so then when I look at this, maybe in the past I might have seen this as, you know, a little fake, a little Hollywood, a little too much. But the thing was, that was who Dad was inside. He was really that guy. And those feelings, that idealism from television and so forth, that was real for him. And he wanted us to get those little life lessons. So he was grateful for his life, his wife, and his kids. But just like Christy McNichol said, we were all his kids. So I want to share as closing a clip from a 8mm home movie. And it was my tribute to my other childhood favorite actor, Jonathan Frid, who played Barnabas Collins in Dark Shadows, who also died at age 87. And so he was willing to play Barnabas Collins in this film, and my sisters were willing to play the governess and the doctor. So I would just say that's who Dad was. He was always open to helping us in whatever silly dream we had. So I would like to show this, and one last thing I'll say is Dad would be on stage and he would always want the cue to go like television. But it never exactly went like television. So today, you're going to see if when I say, let's play the clip, if it happens. If it doesn't happen, that's fine. Dad always had a joke or something to wait until it actually did happen. But if it would be possible for Dad, would you please roll the clip?
Good news, this program, Dark Shadows, is now being presented in color.
We never got around to dubbing it. Sorry. We're going to do that someday.